I think going back to Descartes, I mean, he was talking about emotion and cognition as conscious feeling versus conscious thought. And that emotions were the raw passions that we shared with animals, and that actually thoughts were uniquely human and made us special, and that's what we shared with God, right? And for hundreds of years, we continue to think about emotion and cognition as very distinct, very different conscious entities that often were in opposition to one another. And, I think in recent decades, there's been first a revolution with regard to our understanding about cognition and thought. And that, we used to think that cognition was conscious thought only, and now we realize that perhaps almost all of cognition is unconscious, right? That conscious thought is the tip of the iceberg, okay? And and so there's this foundational distinction in cognitive neuroscience between implicit and explicit processes, and all major cognitive processes have this implicit component, memory being a perfect example of that. And in my own work, as I looked at what emotion is, we came to realize that it has multiple components that seem to, they're cognitive in the sense that they involve information processing, such as that kind of evaluation that I talked about, right? And the experience of emotion might be, considered a cognitive phenomenon as well. So basically, in a book that we published in the year 2000 called The Cognitive Neuroscience of Emotion, we really made the case that this implicit-explicit distinction applies to emotion as well as to cognition, and that perhaps, that it's very, very difficult, if not impossible, to know where to draw the line between emotion and cognition if you accept that cognitions can be unconscious and emotions may be unconscious as well. So I should say that my own view about the concept of unconscious emotion really comes from my clinical experience, and I see expressions of this every day in all clinical encounters. I mean, people, for example, they act in ways that they don't understand, and we often find that it's motivated by emotions that they weren't aware of. But someone can be talking about a situation, and they may, have anger in their voice. They may have an angry expression on their face, and you may say, "How are you feeling?" They say, "Fine," but the motor expression really suggests otherwise, and oftentimes you can help people get in touch with how they feel. Now, the question is, were they really feeling angry but defending against it, or was it just an expression of anger that consisted of the tone of their voice and their facial expression, and that the feeling of emotion is something that has to be constructed above and beyond the bodily response? And that's our view of it, that you aren't just uncovering something that's fully formed and already there, but that by putting it into words and conceptualizing it, you are further advancing or modifying what was just a bodily response that was adaptive to the situation, but wasn't necessarily amenable to, kind of reflection. So if we think about human beings compared to, our nearest evolutionary neighbors, non-human primates, we think that they have emotional responses and they may experience them, but they actually aren't able to reflect upon them, they're not able to conceptualize them, we think they don't have words, etc. So as a result, because we have those advanced cognitive capacities, we have a much richer repertoire of emotions, many more emotions, and we can also think about emotions, what we're feeling, what other people are thinking in the present, in the future, in the past. We just have vastly expanded capacity to reflect upon emotion and experience emotion that go far beyond what any other animal can do.